How's it going? Dave from Comic Book Investments. So today in this video, what we're going to do is go through the top 10 hottest comic books, but 1 year ago, and see how they kind of turned out over the past year. And I've many times talked about why certain books go up and certain books go down, and you got to be careful about the FOMO and the hype and all that kind of stuff. So let's see these top 10 hottest comic books 1 year ago and see how they've turned out. See what kind of money they've gained or lost or whatnot. So let's get into it right now. Number 10. And we got Star Wars Mace Windu, number 4. So a year ago, an average raw copy on eBay, so to speak, would cost you about $4. Now you can sell it for about $7. That's a 75% increase. And it also had a high of $20 a year ago, but now the high for a raw copy is only $15, so minus 25%. A CGC 9.8 a year ago sold for about $250 and now sells for about $150. That's minus 40%. And so yeah, this book, not a good deal. You have to, when you look at these kind of books that are on these lists, you have to ask yourself why. Why is this book even on there? Is there anything special about this book? First appearance, second appearance, cameo, maybe a start of a storyline, start of an artist, start of a writer, something, or it has an iconic cover or something. It has to have something in order to continue to have value and to go up. So you got to be very careful when you buy these books. If you look down below, I kind of put a list of different books, kind of in different price ranges, that if you also invested a year ago, what they would have been. And if we all remember, I say this all the time, pretty much from around April, May, and June, comics had a massive boom, sometimes almost doubling in 3 months alone. So these books, if these came out a year ago, or not came out, but these prices are from a year ago, they should have had the boom. And these didn't even have the boom. So let's look at an AF-15. If you would have bought this in September of 2020 and you would have sold it now, this month, you would have gotten 142% return. A Hulk 181, 67% return. Swamp Thing, number 1, 41% return. Spectacular Spider-Man 1, which isn't even like a first appearance of anyone. It's literally just the first issue. 102% return. Nova, number 1, 59% return. And I did different prices. Like obviously not everyone's going to be able to afford a AF-15, but you can get a Spectacular Spider-Man number 1, a Nova number 1. Like, you have to go for things that have keys. Most of these, like obviously the AF-15, Hulk 181 are first appearances, but then the Nova number 1 is a first appearance obviously, but Spectacular Spider-Man 1 isn't. Swamp Thing 1 isn't. So if you would have put your money in those books, you would have had more money at the end of it. And then you have to ask yourself, what is the point of all this? Are you just trying to invest for money reasons? Or are you investing because you like the character, like the book? Then that doesn't matter. But I'm the comic book investment guy, so this is about money and investments. All right, moving on to number 9. We got the Ice Cream Man number 1, the Quarantine Comics Special variant cover. A year ago, you can get one. Average copy was about $75 with a high of $180. Now an average copy sells for about $15 and a high of $69. So that's minus 80%. On the high, it's minus 62%. Sorry, I messed up on the little arrow. And then a CGC sold for about $49 and a 9.8 now sells for about $77. So that's a 57% return, but overall, everything else is down for it. Sometimes, you could get lucky and have someone pay maybe a high price in a particular month. But still, I would pass on this book. All right, number 8. We got Batman 99, and we got the variant cover. Cool cover, by the way. I like it. Average raw copy a year ago sold for $30. Now sells for $15. That's minus 50%. I had a high a year ago of $40. Now is a high of $60. This is raw copy, up 50%. A CGC 9.8 a year ago sold for $75. Now sells for $64, minus 15%. Overall, when I checked out this book through eBay, everything was just like really, really, really low. I saw a copy you could pick up for like, I think like $5 for a copy. I put in the average of the raw and show the high, but yeah, there's lows in there that are pretty low. So this is definitely one book that you shouldn't have got into the hype. All right, number 7. We got Star Wars Kanan, number 6. Now this one turned out pretty good actually. Average copy a year ago was $35. Now it sells for $172, up 333%. Had a high of $65 a year ago. Now has a high of $300. That's up 362%. A CGC 9.8 would sell for $333. Now sells for $609. That is up, sorry, there's a minus there, but it's supposed to be up 83%. So that one was definitely a good one. All right, number 6. We got the Goon number 1. Now, I couldn't find any raw data sales for this one, but a CGC 9.8 sold for $1,820 and now sells for $1,625, minus 11%. Overall, though, I think the Goon is probably one of the better bets on this list, even though like it went down, just because, didn't have a big print run, and it's, a pretty big like indie character. Not like the biggest, but compared to the other ones, it's just overall, I think, is a better buy than the other ones. All right, number 5. We got the Walmart variant of Venom 25. A year ago, a raw copy sold for $20. Now it sells for $10. That's minus 50%. It had a high of $65 and now has a high of $20. That's minus 69%. CGC 9.8 sold for $250. Now you pick up one for $54. And these are actual sold prices. Actual sold prices. Not ones that are listed, ones that have sold. That's minus 78%. Just think about that. That's a lot of money that you just lost if you put a bunch of money into this book. That's why you have to be careful about these variant covers and all this kind of stuff. When the dust settles, most of them don't work out. In the beginning, when they first get released, they're sky high, and then they just get less and less and less as time goes on. Once in a while, there's a couple of variant covers that like continue their going up, but most of the time, not so much. All right, the Sentry number 4. This had a average raw sale of $30 a year ago. Now that's $8, minus 73%. Had a high of $60. Now that's $13, minus 78%. A CGC sold, a 9.8 sold for $52 a year ago. Now sells for $52. So it didn't really change at all. But just because it doesn't change doesn't mean it's a good deal. Like, I guess you didn't lose anything if you had to sell it, but you also didn't gain anything. And then when you sell it, you're going to lose fees unless you find another avenue of selling it. But even with the comic boom, this one didn't even go up. And $52 for a 9.8, it's like pretty standard for a 9.8. Like, it doesn't matter what book it is because you're nearing case cost. So that's why I always say case cost is going to cost you what, like $22 for a modern plus shipping there and back and insurance, all that kind of stuff. And if you get a 9.8, hopefully you do, then you have the book itself in there. So $50 for a 9.8 is, yeah, it's just that's almost as low as it go. Number 3. We got Amazing Fantasy number 1. This had an average raw sale of $20 and now sells for about $30. That's a 50% increase. Had a high of $50 back a year ago and now has a high of $65. That's a 30% increase. CGC, that's supposed to be a 9.8. I know it says 7.5 on there. It's supposed to be 9.8. That was probably an accident. 9.8 sold a year ago for $199. One sold for $198. That's minus 1% pretty much, like barely anything at all. So it pretty much stayed the same. The raw copies are slightly up a little bit, so that's not that bad. But overall, this book hasn't really moved much considering, you had the comic boom. All right, moving on. We got number 2, Undone by Blood number 1. An average raw copy sold for $10 a year ago, now sells for $6, minus 40%. A high of 30, now it's a high of 15, minus 50%. It says CGC 7.5 in there, but there is no CGC data. Basically, the book is too cheap. No one wants to case it. I mean, there's a couple up on eBay for sale in the hundreds of dollars, but no one's buying them, is what it comes down to. No one cares about this book to get it cased, or I mean buy it cased. Maybe some people actually have it cased themselves, but no one's actually buying it cased. There's literally no sales data of a graded copy of this. And it's pretty much just bleh, nothing. Nothing happened to it. And it'll probably stay that way for quite a long time unless, who knows, maybe they'll do a TV show or something like that, but I doubt it. And even if they did, how much is this book really going to go up? All right, moving on to number 1. Before I do, please think about subscribing if you haven't subscribed already. And let me know if you like this kind of stuff. I found this stuff very interesting. I had to do a bunch of digging to find what was going on a year ago. So that was kind of hard. But yeah, I've always wanted to do this because it showcases kind of what I'm always talking about. Just because these comics are on these lists, you have to ask yourself, why is this comic on this list? What makes it important? You can't just buy these lists just because they're hot, because the moment you buy it when they're on the list, they've probably already peaked. That is their peak. So you got to be really careful. So you always have to ask yourself, why is this important? Why is this valuable? And why will other people think it's valuable? So when I go to sell it a year, 2, 10 years, whatever it is down the line, it will be more valuable. All right, number 1. Avengers, number 8. Now, I didn't have any raw sale data from a year ago, but a 7.5 year ago sold for $1,499. And now it sells for $4,320. That is up 188%. Now, why did this book go up? Well, Kang the Conqueror obviously was in Loki, the show, and that was after September 2020. Also, Kang is supposed to show up in an Avengers movie, so it's got that going for it. Also, the comic boom that I'm talking about, that pushed it up a lot. But also, it's a Silver Age, an old Silver Age book. These books are actually quite rare. And I shouldn't say rare. You can always find one. I should say the demand is very high for this old Silver Age stuff compared to the supply. Unlike these modern books, the supply is massive, and there's literally no demand for them for the most part. And the reason why is you got to have it's not only the demand that you need, it's the quality of demand. And this is what I mean by the quality of demand. You could have 100 people that may want a particular book. But if the 100 people only want to spend $10, it will never go past $10, right? Because someone will be like, oh, how about $11? No one wants to spend it, right? So you have to have quality people, and by I mean quality, people that are willing to spend a ton of money on the book. So it's not necessarily the demand. It's about what that demand wants to spend and values those books. And a lot of modern books maybe has some demand, but there's not a lot of people that are willing to spend that much for a modern book. So it continues to stay low, and it's really hard for those books to break out. You have to increase the demand so much and increase the quality of those people that are willing to spend a ton of money on that book. All right, so I hope you like this list. Let me know in the comments below, and have a great